Yeah. So, with workers facing a cost of living crisis and being continually asked to do more with less, particularly in the wake of the COVID pandemic, we've seen a wave of strike activity and labor action across the US. Here in Portland, we've had two large healthcare strikes in this past year. The Providence nurses strike was an open ended strike that ended in February, which two of our speakers today will be able to share their experiences from firsthand. And just last week, over 30,000 workers at Kaiser Permanente went on a 5-day limited duration strike in California, Hawaii, and Oregon. While OHSU is choosing not to pay us fair and living wages and instead talking at town halls about $1.75 million salaries being an equity issue for executives, it's clear that we're going to have to be ready for more than just a conversation at the bargaining table to get what we deserve. And that's been true at some of our other unions here at OHSU as well. The Postdoc Workers United came within hours of going to the strike line last year. Research Workers United has also been in bargaining since September 2024 and joined us earlier this month in an informational picket. Advanced Practice United, who has been bargaining since May of 2024, are currently going through a strike authorization vote, and ONA, the nurses union, authorized a strike in their last negotiation cycle, and they're about to start bargaining again this month. So OHSU's lawyers have been very busy and very well paid dealing with all of us union folk. So yeah, I'm really excited to introduce our speakers and hear about their experiences on the strike line. Strikes can look very different depending on the union, whether it's a limited duration or a set amount of time. And we're going to approach this with kind of an informal discussion. So let me go ahead and introduce the speakers, and we will try and get to some Q&A at the end. So Donna Marks has worked for Nabisco for 20 years and has been a member of the Bakery, Confectionery, Tobacco, and Grain Millers International Union for 35 years. She's been in leadership with BC TGM for most of her career. The workers at Nabisco went on strike in 2021. It lasted for 43 days until the union members were finally able to ratify an agreement. Donna has been also involved in Oregon Senate Bill 916, signed into law in June 2025, which has been the bill that we're all talking about lately regarding unemployment insurance for striking workers after they've been on striking for more than 2 weeks. Courtney Bailey went on a 1-day strike with her union and has also helped plan strikes that didn't happen. She now works for the PCC Federation of Faculty and Academic Professionals Union as their lead organizer in contract enforcement, which represents about 1,600 employees at Portland Community College. And our last two speakers were both on the picket line at the Providence strike earlier this year, which was a 46-day strike that united 5,000 workers, nearly 5,000 nurses with physicians and nurse practitioner hospitalists. So Dr. Jennifer Lincoln is a board certified OB-GYN and member of Northwest Medicine United, which represents approximately 700 physicians. That's right. Nurse practitioners and physician associates across Oregon. Providence St. Vincent, their chapter of approximately 74 internal medicine, med peds, and OB hospitalists stood in solidarity with nurses during that historic strike, marking the first time that doctors and nurses marking the first time doctors and advanced practice providers walked the strike line in Oregon. And Kaylee Roll is a registered nurse and member of Oregon Nurses Association. She was extremely involved in the strike line and was motivated to become even more involved in her union after what she experienced, and now serves as ONA Chief Steward at Providence, Portland. So yeah, let's get started. We're going to keep this pretty informal. I'll ask some questions and we'll just kind of move on when we feel we're able to within the discussion. So yeah, if anyone wants to talk about what led to your union to voting to authorize a strike.
Okay,
I can
nobody's
start.
answered. Oh,
Oh,
no, you
go
go.
ahead,
Go
Jennifer.
for go for it. I'm gonna go back on.
Okay, thanks. All right. Hi everybody. I um solely did not share with Kate what union I was with when I went on strike. So I actually was part of AFSCME, Washington Federation of State Employees, at Evergreen State College, where I was a higher ed worker staff. And we formed a brand new union and bargained our contract. We had been bargaining our first contract for 17 months with the college. And Evergreen State College, if you don't know it, is considered like a very progressive state college up in Oregon. Um, it was very shocking, I think, to a lot of the employees who hold a lot of those values that they were being so resistant. And the two major issues that led to striking was that we had not had a raise, even and no cost of living adjustments in over 6 years because we weren't unionized. And we were some of the lowest paid state employees in the state of Washington. Our average salary was about equivalent to what it was in the 1990s, like for state employees, the average state employee wage. And then we were really fighting mostly for just cause protections. They wanted to keep us at will employees, even with having a union. And so those were the two big issues that we went on a 1 day strike over. Our strike was not legal, but as one of my labor heroes, Sarah Nelson from the Flight Attendants Union, always says, there's no such thing as an illegal strike, only unsuccessful ones. And our plan was actually to do intermittent striking, also not technically legal, but we ended up only needing 1 day to settle our contract after that. So I'll let others share.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I think, wages is always a reason that people strike, so I won't go into that in too much detail. For us as the hospitalists, though, a big thing was that we wanted a say in how we did our jobs, and we've seen how our voice, especially since COVID, was really put to the side. And specifically with Providence, we knew that they were very active in trying to cut and outsource and hire cheaper labor. We had been at the bargaining table for 18 months and had gotten nowhere. And I mean, insultingly nowhere, which was a tactic, of course. It took them almost a year or 6 months to agree to let us put up a bulletin board. Like that's the degree of it. So for us, it was that we wanted something called a succession clause, which is that they could not fire us and replace us with cheaper labor, which is what they did with our anesthesia group. And that caused a huge issue for patients and for us. And they said that they could never give that to us, even though it wasn't a standard, blah, 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 even though that had been something that the legacy hospitalists had previously negotiated. They said that they couldn't give it to us until we went on strike, and then they gave it to us. So I would say, I know we're going to be talking about this. I think that a strike it's hard. It should be a last resort. Sometimes it's the only thing that works, but it is the hardest thing we've ever done. But unfortunately, you are not engaging with logical people. They see you as a business. They don't see you as people. And so unfortunately, sometimes strike is the only thing that works.
Yeah, just to kind of echo what Dr. Lincoln said, I mean, sometimes it truly is the only thing that works. We had been bargaining for about 5 months, I believe, before we went on strike. And our big reason over at Providence Portland was just staffing. Even with the implementation of the House Bill 2697, hospitals are finding ways, all kinds of ways to get around providing safe staffing for our coworkers and for our patients. And so for myself, and I know a lot of the people that I worked with, safe staffing was like number one priority, and then kind of came sort of the other things like our benefits and wages and that kind of thing. And so Providence just was continuing to make it very difficult for us to enforce any kind of safe staffing. And so we really wanted to get language in our contract that solidified that we could continue to fight for safe staffing and kind of get us a pathway to get us more staff to care for patients.
Cool. Yeah, what did it feel like then, when you did end up choosing to vote, choosing to authorize a strike and went out on the strike line?
Well, I'll just say, since I just said it's the hardest thing I've ever done, it sucks. It totally sucks because you want to go do your job and you have a lot of emotions. Um, but it can feel joyous. And I say that because, we got pushback. We got told, why do you look so happy out there? You look like you're having so much fun. It's just from other doctors who were working the shifts and who were very angry that we were on the strike line. And I responded with, you don't know till you're out there. You see so much of how you have been abused and ignored, and to finally feel like you're doing something about it. In that resistance, there is joy. So it was super hard. I was on the night before we walked out, or the night that we did walk out. You don't go into these fields to then just leave, but you also know that you can just keep staying as it is, and people are going to get hurt eventually. So it feels good to have action, but it's really hard psychologically. It is extremely hard. It is hard on your body to stand out there. And I'm not saying that you're probably like, oh my God, like she's telling us not to strike. I think it's really important for people to be prepared, because even when you think you're prepared and you think it's just going to, even if it's a couple days, I was just talking to some of the Kaiser nurses who were out for 5 days, and they were like, that was really hard for us because you just don't know what it's like. And especially when you hear people saying things about you that aren't true, when the hospital lies about you, it's really hard. So I think if you go into it knowing that and preparing and knowing that you're doing it for a reason, and to have all your reasons very clear, and to make sure that your union knows those reasons and the things they're asking for, like your bargaining team is there, then it's worth it. But it's really hard, but it's also in some ways really easy, because in the old days, people would get shot for going on strike, right? I think it's really important for people to understand that being in a union right now is very vanilla compared to what it used to be. But that means you have to show up, because you are standing on the shoulders of those people who did all that hard work. So you have a right to stand on the strike line and not worry that your car tires are going to be slashed. So it's emotional, and I think it's important to know that.
Yeah, an incredibly emotional experience. I don't think I was at all prepared for how emotional and emotionally taxing it would be. Not only physically being out on the line, I mean, we were out in the winter time, so it was, pretty chilly most days. But it just truly was an emotional roller coaster. I mean, there were times where I felt really empowered and I was like, yes, I'm going out to the line. I've got all my friends. We're gonna show up in a group. We're gonna wear our, whatever wig or whatever day it was, and just feeling really good. And then there were other days where I just felt so anxious and scared. And so it really was an emotional roller coaster. Um, but letting folks in your orbit sort of know, like, hey, this could be potentially an emotional experience for me, like giving people a heads up that you may need a little extra support, I think is really helpful. And then like the solidarity that you build with your coworkers on the line there's nothing, it's unparalleled. I've never experienced um, quite a team building exercise like being on strike with your coworkers, and especially for our strike, which was 46 days long. That was quite the team building exercise, and so really leaning on your fellow worker to kind of get you through some days. And we even like would we had a hold the line chat where like some days people were feeling strong and kind of being the motivators, and then other times, they would need a little pick me up. And so having those kinds of support systems, I think, is really, really helpful.
I don't have too much more to add there because I very similar experience as well. You'll have so many times, I think, as you're planning where you'll think to yourself or maybe say out loud, am I doing the right thing? And in hindsight, it's unequivocally yes. But in the moments, it feels really stressful because it's not just about you as an individual either. It's like a whole huge group of people, right? Um, and I think that yeah, I mean the solidarity piece, I just want to like amplify it. I know both Jennifer and Kaylee said that that is so huge, and it doesn't just last through the strike. It like fundamentally changes the culture of your organization and your workplace. And that is, I think, one of the most powerful things about strike. And I'll just add too that I will agree it was one of the most stressful times in my life. And strike planning the few times I've been through it. And it is like the world that we live in right now. We don't really in the US know how to do general strikes anymore, and we need those. And this is preparation for that as well, like to fight all the systemic oppression and fascism that is happening right now in our country as well. Like people call for general strikes all the time, which is great, but we don't remember how to do those. We did those like 100 years ago. And so this is awesome. This is like a really incredible opportunity to practice like in our work environment what we can do and change the culture like in our country as well. So yes, it's stressful and it's necessary, right?
Hi, for Nabisco Bakery, it was terrifying. We walked out, um, but we were excited. We were, the first day, let's go, let's go, let's go. And so we were all excited. Well, by the third day in the summer, I showed up for my shift, and everybody had their lawn chairs and we're just kind of sitting out holding the signs, and the memento had dropped. It was momentum, excuse me, had dropped. And I became known as the whoop whoop girl. So I would go up and down and whoop whoop to get people going, and that built up the momentum, excuse me. And then it died again. um we start actually because we did 41 days, and we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't have the benefit of this new law. We lost our health insurance. um so things got really, really scary for us, but we weren't going to cross the line. The majority of us just stayed. But for us, it's when all the other unions start joining us that helped us see the bigger picture, because we got stuck on the Nabisco world. We didn't think about the other industries. It was just this is what's happening with us. And when the other unions showed up and told us their story, it was identical, just different industries, but the same thing: corporate greed during COVID. They're making millions of dollars and they're still paying us nickels and dime, and breaking promises, they were bringing in, contractors, and we don't do contractors at our job, temporaries. And so we got tired and we went on strike during COVID, and we didn't think that we were doing anything wonderful and great for anyone else. We were just looking at Nabisco. So when we had these different organizations, the nurses, the longshoremen, just, a plethora of unions showing up, and they were telling us that we inspired them because we went out during COVID, and if we could do that, they could do that. And then it gave us a feel good to know that, and I've said this before when I spoke, we were just a small branch, but we have a whole family. It was like we were like the armed forces. You got the Navy, so it was all these different branches that just showed up and supported us, and it helped us get through. But you also have to remember, when you're on strike, you 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 got to go back to work with some of the people who chose to cross the line, and you're going to have to forgive them, because whatever that reason is, it's their reason and you can't worry about it. What you're doing and what the majority of the people are doing is to make everybody else better in their position and force the company to honor the contracts that they continue to break. So you have to stay strong, and you know build relationships. Mike Burlingham and I worked together for many years, and we were always close, but we ended up getting closer with other people that we work with that we just didn't, we knew them as coworkers, but the strike, we got to know them as people. So you do build a relationship. And it is scary, and you guys will be okay. And I'm happy that this law passed. I'm so happy that this law passed. It sucks there's a 2-week waiting period, but they just couldn't, they had to find something to fight. So that's all that, we took it. So I'm happy for everyone who is able to get this benefit. And I really appreciate you asking me to be a part of this meeting. It means a lot. So thank you, Kate.
Thank you. We're glad to have you all here. I mean, the unemployment insurance for striking workers has been definitely a part of this conversation for us. And yeah, so thank you. I guess would anyone kind of want to talk a little bit more about like I know I jumped right into the what's it like on the strike line, but what some of the preparation looked like for you, and not that you can ever feel comfortable, as you said, like getting ready to go out on a strike line, but what made it okay to finally do that and walk?
I think talking with your coworkers, and kind of building out, your CAT team for the strike, and knowing that you have the numbers, like you have the support that you're going to need and the leverage that you're going to need, I think is critical. I think also, just, you're probably going to hear of folks that are like, I'm thinking about staying, I'm thinking about crossing the line. And, I think it's really important to get the resources to those folks and figure out what exactly is it that is making them consider doing that, and also figuring out if there's resources for them, right? Like, is it you're concerned about being without a paycheck, and maybe like your strike fund could potentially help out in this situation. A really strong strike fund is something that you can never share enough with folks, and having that as sort of like a safety net, for some people that maybe otherwise wouldn't be able to financially cross or go out on strike, I think is really, really critical. Since people are kind of aware that it's a possibility, if you're able and you have the means to kind of put some money away, I think is really helpful, and it will be really good for you mental health wise, when the strike finally does come around. I don't think that I did that as much as I could have done it, and so when our strike finally did happen, I was like, oh, I wish I would have prepared for that a little bit more than I did. But I will know for next time. And then, I think also, like, one of the things that I did, which I think was really helpful when we did go out on the line, was I made a strike playlist, like, of just like really, just banger songs that would just hype up the strike line. And I think that was really helpful in kind of getting into the spirit of things as well. And it was definitely a hit on the line when we did finally go out. So
I do want to just say to Teresa's comment, and I don't know the rules of like if you're on probation or whatnot, if you can't strike. At St. V's, we had that same situation. There were people who couldn't strike, people who were techs or whatever, and then people who were students and whatnot. And you can support a strike even if you can't strike. And I'm not saying like people who choose to cross the line, which even there you can tell those people that they're allowed to come out to the line. Management will say if they're not allowed to be. That's not true. We have free speech and the ability to gather. They can also support the strike by being the eyes and ears of what's happening. Lots of stories about what happened in St. V's, and most of them didn't even make them out because they're too identifiable. But I can tell you that is huge. They can help in lots of ways that don't involve. They can bring food. They can be morale boosters. They can watch your kids. They can donate time. There's so many ways. Yeah, and in terms of like some folks truly cannot, financially support. I would say for people who are, if you are considering striking. I know nurses who picked up extra shifts for a full year beforehand because they could see it coming. And it's really important that you think like, don't go on a wish and a prayer that it's going to last a week or two. Like, yay, if it does, but if it doesn't, what can you do to prepare ahead of time? Can you pick up extra shifts? Can you do these things? Because the finances are real. Yes, there will be a strike fund, but it may not be enough that you need or whatnot. I do want to say too about when you are actually out there on the line, whether or not you're striking or not, it is so important to see that line, like Donna said, not as a passive thing where you just stand there. But I conducted rounds, like we called them, but I can't remember what we call it, strike rounds. We went around and we made sure we talked to every group. We made sure people were informed. We figured out what the anxieties were. We got back to our reps and said, hey, people are freaking about this. You need to tell them about that. It is an active, living, breathing thing, and people will have their breakdowns and people will have their moments. And so you have got to show up like you're at work and you're like, we're going to talk. We're going to make sure we're up to date. We're going to, this person's not doing great. How can we support them? So it's very much, it's an active thing, not a passive thing.
I'm gonna answer that question in the chat from Misty real quick. Yes, Dr. Lincoln is correct. It is January 1st that law goes into effect.
Yeah, I'll just add, we did a lot of the things everyone has mentioned as well. I think, so with the union I currently work for, a couple of years ago, we were close, about 30 days away from striking when we settled. And that group, I would say, was maybe more organized than I was when I went out with Evergreen State College. But we had, getting people, the more people you can get involved in the planning, the more democratic the strike is, which is great. And it also, makes for lighter workloads for everybody. And so we had different, with PCC FFAP, we had different working groups. So of course, we had a strike committee that our contract action team was on. We had a strike fund committee, or just a finances committee, that was looking at what are all the financial resources that we have available to us. So like, for example, we're part of the American Federation of Teachers. They offer short-term, no interest loans for striking workers which is not like ideal, but it's something that you have like a long time to pay back if you need to take it out. So your AFSCME might have resources like that at the national or state level. We looked at all of those things. We built up our strike fund, but we also knew our strike fund wasn't, like others have said, wasn't going to cover everybody. So we looked at how are we going to distribute those funds. So, and we had a whole team of people that created sort of a series of questions that were to prioritize the need. So it wasn't just about like how much people earn, but it was also about like the demands on their finances as well, right? Because you can be a high earner, but like have a lot of demands on your finances, financial like debt or family stuff, things like that. So we had this whole resource sort of guide and how we were going to prioritize that distribution, and made it really publicly known that that was how it was going to happen. So it really, striking is about creating mutual aid, mutual care. So it's who's going to bring the food to the strike line. We've got, like you all, we had students to consider who were not going to have access to resources as much, like the food pantry, the staff who run the food pantry on the Portland Community College campuses were going to be on strike if we went. So we were like, we got to provide food on the line for students too, right? And so all of those details. So we had just different like working groups that were working on all of these things to consider. And it was awesome because it got more people involved. And yeah, we also hosted strike schools. Similar, we had panels like this as well, but we also had schools where we were like, this is what the strike will look like. Do you want to be a part of planning? Things like that. So lots of people working on it, and really activated the membership, which was awesome.
Great. I wanted to kind of ask if you had any other things, any other advice that you wanted to share about union members considering this. And then I think we're going to jump into questions that the folks in the chat might have. So.
One of the things that we did to keep up morale, because morale is the biggest thing, doing your shifts, and if you get kind of frustrated when you see the same people and you're like, where's everybody else at? But some people had to get a second job or another job to help them get through, and you got to have that understanding too. As long as they didn't cross that line, that was really the most important thing. But we would do stuff like we had barbecues, we had different things just to keep us all one. So the barbecues would be on all, because we had 3 different shifts when everybody did 4-hour shifts, and doing the barbecues, or sometimes we had some people bring some like a gumbo type dish, and just all these things just to feed everybody on the line. We also did have food pantry. People would bring in food to give out. And that's not something that happened in the beginning. That's something that happened when we realized, whoa, this has lasted longer than we thought. And so to keep the morale up, we just, we did different things. And having other people from the community involved also helps. And one of the things I did after we did our strike, I showed up and I spoke at the Kaiser, and I showed up, and Mike showed up, and we did different things because we paid back. They stood with us, we stood with them, and that was one of the hardest things for me with all my peers. It was only a small group of us afterwards who actually put in the work to go support the same ones that supported us, because they quickly went back into their little world of Nabisco. And they're like, okay, we got what we wanted. And they forgot that we only got what we got because of everyone, consumers, other union members out there striking with us. It was, we had one lady come down all the way from Idaho, drove down just to stand with us because she was so excited that we took a stand during COVID. We didn't know how bad everybody was. To see it still happening, it's very hard for me. It's like we're taking a step backwards, just going so back in time where we gain this momentum and then we're slipping again. So it's important to stick together. Having this meeting with all these different unions it's very important for this to happen, so people can understand. Yes, it's scary, but it's exciting, and you stood up. You're not taking. We go to work. We took the bad behavior because we were so used to the abusive relationship. It became our normal, and then we got tired. For us, it took us, I think, 4 years before we went 4 years without a contract, and then we said we had enough. Um, and so for other people who are doing it in shorter times, kudos, because it should never took us 4 years. We should have never been afraid. We should have just walked. So, just remember to constantly don't lose your morale. There's going to be days where you see people down. You be the one, you step out, you be the whoop, whoop, whoop. And you'd be surprised how many people will join in with you, how many cars will start honking at you because you're whooping and getting everyone in the community and your coworkers involved, because it is disheartening to go show up every day. And our strike fund was nothing. Our strike fund was enough for gas. It wasn't, nothing near our paycheck. It wasn't nothing near it. So, a lot of us took on second jobs. But we still showed up. And so you just have to remember, if you can't do it because you have a second job, do it for an hour. Do it for, 30 minutes. Stop by, cheer on your coworkers, tell them good job, but show them that you are a part of it also, for the people who aren't able to stand with you. And for the people on the inside, guess what they are? They're your ears and your eyes, and they can tell you what's going on. And so take advantage of those being on the inside. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Kate, I have
Thank
to
you.
run in 2 minutes, but could I just say one last thing before I go, and then maybe I'll
Please,
talk about this
yeah.
more. And Donna, I love seeing your dog there. the strike is a PR machine. It's a PR game, and the hospital knows this. And so the one thing I will say, is that the hospital is going to lie. They have people, certain news outlets won't come to you, will refuse to cover the story because they run your hospital's ads. Ask us how we know. But you can control that in different ways, and you can do outreach. And like Courtney said, you can reach out. There's so many ways. But what I would say is be prepared to be lied about, lied to, and completely slandered. And it like that emotion is really hard. I think, especially when you're healthcare providers and you're like, but we took an oath and this is what you're saying about us. Like, these are complete lies. They have strike consultants who are telling them what to say. Like, it's the same. I saw the same exact things that Kaiser said about their employees that Providence said about us. So it ain't personal, it's business, but you have to control the narrative. You find the ways to have the nitty gritty details. Because when somebody says, why are you out here? Are you just going to make more money? Have actual numbers, actual things, actual ratios. And when you tell people that, your neighbors and people are gonna be like, oh shit. Like, I can't believe I ever thought maybe this was a terrible idea. I can't believe that I thought these nurses were just entitled. When you have actual stories and you are communicating that, I tell people you need to be able to say it in a 30-second soundbite because people don't listen. And you have to be able to explain your why. And I think that's a huge part of it. And then that's how you take back the control of the narrative. And then people see you as like the good, caring people that you actually are. But I'm so sorry I have to run early, but wishing you guys all the best of luck, and I'm sure it'll be a great conversation. So
Thank you very much. Very much appreciated all of your insight. So thank you.
Yeah, and if I can just add just briefly, kind of echoing what Donna and Dr. Lincoln were saying, the community is going to be on your side. 99% of people are going to stand with you, are going to honk at you, are going to give you the thumbs up, are going to, roll down their window and tell you to keep it up. And those kinds of things really do help a lot. And there's going to be, just as Dr. Lincoln was saying, there's going to be a fair amount of gaslighting coming from the employer. And just knowing that your community is standing with you. When you do get out on the line, seeing members of other unions, community organizations out there, and building those connections really helps just build sort of the broader labor movement. And so I would really encourage folks, when you are out on the line and you see those organizations out there, you see those other unions out there really making those connections, it really does wonders for us, all of us, as workers, as working class people, to continue to build upon that and build those connections. So each strike, we're supporting each other that much more and that much more and that much more, because there will be more. Unfortunately, we're going to continue to have to do this. And then also, I know I saw somebody in the chat talking about like a food pantry. We did that at PPMC. It was extraordinarily helpful. And, if maybe you have a ton of whatever paper towels, then you can bring a bunch of that. And then somebody else will bring something that you may not have as much of. And so, even just like little things here and there, like can really make a difference when you're on strike without paycheck. So I would highly recommend that you all do something like that. It also just is so awesome to see everybody kind of supporting each other in that way during that time. It's really very heartwarming.
Yeah, I'm gonna open it up to some of the questions in the chat. I saw Daniel from RWU. Thanks for coming out. We love having solidarity between our OHSU unions here. Does anyone have tips for how striking might be affected, since we have a lot of remote workers who may not live near Portland? I'm not sure if that's anything that folks on like here are able to kind of speak to, but would love to hear it. I also work remotely, but I do live local to Portland. That isn't the case for some of our other workers here at OHSU.
I haven't been on a strike with remote employees, but this is an issue at Portland Community College as well. We do have folks who are really hybrid or teach fully remotely, things like that, and maybe don't live in the area as well. And we've talked about this a lot and what that would look like. And what we what we've come up with so far is we have another I love working groups, another small working group that is that are remote employees that are trying to create a space for remote employees to connect with each other and build those relationships. So that's a really good starting point. And then we actually PCC FFAP just launched our strike pledge today. Yay, very exciting. Have 100 signatures in the first couple of hours. So we're getting closer to striking too. But we're going to ask that remote employees group to think about what would remote employee striking look like, and let them kind of, I mean, obviously it means not working, right? But what are some other ways to engage them? I've heard of virtual picketing, or maybe it's maybe they take on doing some of the like behind the scenes administrative stuff to support the union, or maybe they organize like, because you can do other actions during a strike to increase that pressure. So maybe it's a campaign, like an email flood campaign, you know, to administrators, with not just union folks, but community members and other unions. You know, so ideas like that, I think, could be really awesome to engage remote employees in the strike and feel connected to what's happening, even if they're not able to attend in person. Or just having like online or hybrid rallies if you can. And like just like people talk so much, rightly so, about like pumping each other up when when morale gets low on the strike line is so important. And so making sure that those remote employees have a way to connect around that too, so they can keep their morale up and feel connected to what's going on. Those are some of the ideas. It's, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of other great strategies out there, and I think engaging those remote members in that conversation is probably the most important thing, because they probably have lots of good ideas too.
I think social media is a awesome thing to use. Getting on social media and talking about why you're on strike, because a lot of people don't really understand, especially when they're not part of a union. And you will often hear, if you don't like your job, get a new job, and it's never that simple. And so social media, getting on social media and telling the truth, getting on Facebook, TikToks, whatever streaming you use, or all of them, and share your story, and ask your brothers and sisters on the picket line to send you pictures so you can post those pictures on social media so people can see. Because what you're going to see, what's amazing, is the community dropping off water, dropping off donuts, people you don't even know supporting you in such a way. They'll just pull to the side and here's a case of water. And but a lot of them don't know about it if they don't hear about it, because some people have stopped watching the news, and because of the state of the world. So but there are on social media, so use social media as a tool to get the remote workers. Ask them, could they help through social media? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I see Arison's question. Love to hear more about the support you received and have seen from community groups.
Yeah, so I can actually speak to that a little bit. So not only did we see a lot of local labor unions on our line, we saw tons of community organizations. A big one that was on our line a lot was the Democratic Socialists of America. They were out there like all the time, in solidarity with us. And so much so that when we got back in from being on strike, I joined them, right? And so there's a lot of like bridges that happen. And that's why I say like building those connections with folks on the line is so, so helpful. PPMC, since we've been back from strike, they have done a lot of other things that we're not going to forget when it comes to negotiating our next contract, right? And so there will be more strikes, and continuing to build those connections with those community orgs are just some of the ways to really, really build power here in Portland, but also on a broader scale for sure.
Donna, I see you talking. I'm not sure if you are talking to someone else or intending to talk to us.
My skills are low. Sometimes I can't remember where the microphone is. I just wanted to reiterate some of the stuff that Kylie said about the DSA. DSA, Jobs for Justice, both of them, you'll see the same people. They go hand in hand. And because of the DSA and Jobs with Justice, that is how we got bigger. They brought the community and they did the work that we couldn't legally do. And that's what made it awesome. I mean, they were the ones who got a little radical and but because of them, they were amazing. And I did the same thing. I joined DSA. I joined Job for Justice, and I became a big part. I actually joined so many things that I had to take a step back because I was so pulled so many different ways because I had so much fire in me. Um, and you have your people who are going to be involved like us, and then you have other people who just want to go back to work and go home and not think about it again. But we remember, and we don't want to forget, and we want to help everybody. So those are the leadership people, the people who the people who are in leadership have gone through something. And so they're the ones who tend to stand up and fight for the rights of everyone else. So, kudos to Job for Justice and DSA, because without them, I really don't think that we would have won our strike because they did bring the community in. And they were amazing. Yeah.
I mean,
Thank you.
ditto to all of that too. There's such great organizations locally. When I was at Evergreen, so my union, I'm not sure if I said this before, but it was pretty small, and it was a group of staff that worked like student support staff. So academic advisors, people who did enrollment stuff, the non-teaching side of the college, right? And we the first thing we did was build relationships with the faculty union. They were already unionized, longstanding, super awesome. And they actually went on strike with us, and we shut down the college because of that. The college wouldn't have operated very well without our 65 employees, but to have the few hundred faculty out there with us, that was really awesome. And students were a huge part of that as well. So like one of the things you can do is kind of map all of your resources and community groups. And one of the things we're actually starting to do with the current union I work for is survey members about their local community connections already. So so we know, oh my gosh, we have a contact that's like a really big part of this church, and they're a labor supportive church because there's a lot of really great overlap with labor and the religious and religion and churches, or other organizations that we may not even think about. Like, of course we think about other unions, we think about DSA and Jobs with Justice, and I saw someone put LCSA, the Labor Community Service Agency, which is awesome. And then, but there's a lot of other organizations that care, identity-based organizations and just community support organizations that can all be incredibly helpful. And solidarity is mutual, like Donna was saying, right? And so we need to also show up for them. But it's incredible how many people want to support. And yeah, so you can map that out and map your power essentially and see what resources you have, like what are your leverage points with those community organizations. Maybe it's showing up on the picket, maybe it's having them write letters just like we ask the politicians to do, or maybe it's donors too to OHSU because they have a lot of power. You can ask them to withhold their funds until the strike is settled and withhold their donations, things like that. So there's a lot of ways to build that support, and yeah, and it's so awesome. I always say that Portland's a big city, but it's not, right? And this helps really build those relationships and community for long term, which is so great.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I hadn't seen any other questions in the chat. So if there's anything else, any final words of wisdom that y'all would want to leave us with today. I've been so grateful for everything that you have shared. This has been really amazing to hear about your experiences, and yeah, thank you.
Yeah, parting words would be, striking is one of the most important things you could do, for yourself, for your coworkers, for, the longevity of your career. These employers need to be held accountable. They need to understand that they cannot continue to, um, you know, not increase our wages, staff us horribly, treat us however they want, and that we will just take it. This is your opportunity to really band together and say, like, no, you can't do it without us. This is really, how we as working class people can show them that, can tell them that, and can make them feel what it's like when we're not around, right? And so, really, really important. And just like I said in the beginning, but I can't say it enough. Really building those like friend groups, those chat, signal chats or whatever, to help you hold the line throughout is just really, it's the most important thing.
My advice is to, get to know your coworkers. When you're out there, take that time and get to know them more than just coworkers. The ones that you work with, it'll make you understand why certain people act certain ways. And when you go back to work, you just have a better perspective, and understanding of who people are and why they're not the person you actually thought they were, stay strong, it's okay to be afraid. I'm sorry, my dog is playing with her toy. Um, Zara, um, I apologize. But anyway, just stay strong and don't feel guilty if you're not able to make it a day. Don't feel guilty. Long as you show up, just long as you show up and show up with a smile, because if they see you out there angry, that's what you're gonna become. I smiled the whole strike. I was pissed off, but I smiled the whole strike. And it made people stop and say, "Hey, why are you guys on strike?" And I became approachable. So, be out there, put your best face on, support each other, and you guys are going to be okay because we are strong in numbers. We are nothing separate. So stick together and know that we do have the power. We have the power. We just forget sometimes that we have the power, but we have the power to shut it down. So, good luck, everyone. Good luck.
Um, I I I'll just share something that I've been talking about with a lot of people right now. I don't know if you all are experiencing this, but our union members are really tired. I mean, it's dark times, right? In our country, in our city, and people feel sometimes really disempowered, and that can put them in a space where they're not ready to take action. But there's so much we can't control right now, but this is something that, there's way more of you than there are managers. And this is something that you can control as your working conditions through your collective action. And so getting some of that power back, in this, especially in our current political climate, is awesome. And this is one of the ways to do that. And like I said earlier, it's a practice for a potential general strike that we need to take back our country. Well, I shouldn't say take back our country. Anyway, to make our country better and hold our government accountable to the people. But it's I think that that is kind of the biggest thing right now, because people are feeling really overwhelmed. And if we can make our working conditions better, we can make it like has a sorry, getting tired. It has a ripple effect to the rest of our lives and to our community as well. And so you're doing this not just for yourselves, but for the whole community. Yeah.
I think that's a really incredible place to end it. So thank you all. Thank you, panelists, for speaking today. This was really inspiring and amazing. And thank you to everyone who joined. We're excited to be able to make sure more of our coworkers can see this too and get this out there and share these stories with them. So thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank
talking
you.
with y'all.
Take
Good luck.
care.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us. Appreciate it.
Thank
We're
you.
with
This is
you.
amazing. So.
Good luck, everyone.